Lila, and Teeps, and Flora, and me. Rocket.
Boost! Fire!
This has happened before.
Advisor.
The Nintendo DS, the Big N's third portable console, predating the Switch and the biggest breakthrough utilizing dual screens and a touchpad. Just as with several other consoles, this landed into my life at random, although I received a DSi with a built-in camera during Easter the year after it. The DS was the double standard, and I'd say it's the second nostalgic console below the GBA, although I really loved its backward compatibility, something we don't get nowadays. From stylus only to both the magic tapper and controller buttons, and with these 10 classics, I can say it's more superior than the 3DS with its pseudo 3D nauseating effects, its mid-games, and the glaring graphics with the lack of atmosphere, even trumping over the pointless DS Lite. It was the second to last hurrah regarding the PSP when it came down to handhelds. No way am I interested on getting a Switch, nor the imperialistic Switch 2. The 3DS itself was critically short-lived, and I'll always consider the OG home nearly as much as its 3D-bit counterpart. Let's tap dance through 10 entries here. Barely tapping its way onto the list is Flash Focus. It was a nice brief distraction created by Nintendo and Namco, and I'd very much prefer this over the asinine Star Fox Assault. This game tests your eye age daily and somewhat improves your sight through several mini-games. I don't really have a particular favorite, but I guess the eye relaxation exercises were a nice touch at the end of some training sessions. And they're within two settings: core training taking place in an optometrist's office, and sports training which simulates athletic activities like tennis, baseball, and basketball. It was also nice having some customization on your calendar and different stamp designs, much like the next contender. As someone who's been nearsighted, I thought that it improved my vision, except not really. Like another contender, it was a brief phase, but it just sort of rubs off you, like a failed status ailment in the Pokémon series, or taking those prescribed pills for OCD and schizo, or minimizing stimming, but eventually becoming resistant and felt like I was just swallowing peanuts. But if you happen to want a nice educational and an entertaining distraction for the kids, or for yourself, and just want a DS game to start out with, I'll consider this one. I wish maybe they can be a game for the blind one day. Brain Age 2 was another game that sounded promising, but soon came to pass. I never knew about the original, but it wasn't until a certain commercial that piqued my interest. That a slow brain isn't a joke, much as your vision. And as for someone who'd been officially diagnosed just a couple years prior on its release, I definitely needed the improvement to the prefrontal cortex and mental agility. You have up to 17 games to choose from, each one mostly functional with the stylus. And you often start with daily training with its own modes. Then advance and unlock other mini-games as you get a lower brain age. It was fun to see what the results are depending on your responses and skill, especially when reaching the plane or rocket. But the one main minigame for my money has always been the Dr. Mario knockoff. Just a nod to the puzzle game to relax your brain, which was an awesome choice. Although it claims to increase your mental well-being and to keep your brain age low from 20 to 80, which is often hard to do. It didn't seem to change me. It was just existing, much like flash focus, and it was almost as false as those murmurs that fish oil pills can enhance your mind. I felt it was just false advertising. Just like with flash focus and other games down the line, it was a short phase, but a nice fun distraction nonetheless. Pogo Island was a very difficult find. I've managed to have this by the late 2000s, during Christmas, after my stepmom at the time was searching for it in online shops like eBay. But it was worth to have, for the most part. As a fan of Pogo.com back in 2005 to 2012, I just had to have this rare gem. We meet some familiar faces like the explorer from Tri-Peak Solitaire, Spike the Cactus, who's one of my favorite chlorokinetics, the Squelchy Fishies, and even Nestor the Chipmunk. Just a nice little virtual getaway featuring its most played games such as Wordwomp, Tri-Peak Solitaire, Squelchies, Flinks, and Pop It. Although I wish there was more than 5 games, as there was a ship ton of awesome games, including being a jigsaw detective, Mahjong Garden, Word Search Daily, different types of bingo, and even tricky games I couldn't wrap my head around like Canasta and Jungle Gin. Or even customizing your avatar via communicable link, but Nintendo's not often functional. It made me wish that Pogo's still around. If only Adobe didn't lose its Flash player and didn't churn to a corporate greedy hot mess. Just like summer itself, it didn't last very long during my deprived life, though it was still a valuable find like treasure itself. Lucky number 7 goes to this little adorable gem. Nintendogs was just the perfect name for this virtual pet series. I always happened to be a dog lover all my life, so I very much prefer this over cats. and I felt right at home ever since I owned a Golden Retriever copy from my dad's last mom and pop shop. The Husky I named Silver, the Beagle I named Angela, and the Golden Retriever Anissa were my mains, with the latter based on my IRL dog at the time. They always remain as puppies, and they never grow old. Plus, just like games such as Hey You Pikachu doesn't really give you a sense of progression. I feel it's only there for the sake of interaction and training as preparation for an actual dog, like a simulation of sorts. And it just gotten worse once it was used as an interfering obscurity starting in Smash Bros. Brawl. If you have the patience, time, and dedication, I'd recommend this series. And if there's any substitute for the real deal, I'd much rather prefer this addictive, lovable series rather than programming some complicated, bland, and boring as hell robot. This has been my all-time favorite Kirby game. This was just one of the perfect examples of a remake done right and with proper justice that's a rarity nowadays. Kirby Superstar was played for keeps ever since that one Christmas in the late 2000s. The same year as another contender, and I actually owned that Kirby game contrary to its predecessor since I had to rent it from my step-cousin from a town far away. And I'm not counting Smash Bros. Nor Kirby Right Back At Ya as substitutes. It's a vast improvement over its original. Yeah, it is still 9 games in one counting the arena, its 6 main games, and 3 sub-games. However, unlike the original, since it's on a DS, co-op gameplay isn't default anymore. That is until I found out there are 2 downloadable play options, so you and a friend can play on one cartridge. It sounds complicated, and often don't have that kind of luxury on portable consoles. Just like other contenders though, everything has been revamped in graphics, sound. There's no FMV cutscenes, newer bosses, mid-bosses, and enemies. There's more to do, and it was an astonishing feat how it's been redone to function with the stylus and touchpad. And exactly like Superstar, it has some engaging levels, bosses, and I can even say the best copy abilities in the entire franchise. I didn't get too far, hence the low rating, and multiplayer using handhelds has always been technical, especially for the unlucky and challenged. Nevertheless, I still like this game even on solo. I'm so glad I had that chance to own a Kirby copy after years of neglect. No other Kirby game has topped it ever since, and I doubt they ever will. Just like with Kirby Superstar Ultra along with another future contender, the Simpsons game was one of the golden standard dual-screen games I had since Christmas within the late 2000s. I'd say this version is actually more superior than the Wii version, and just as promising as the PS3's. I don't care if it's just 2D gameplay instead of 3D. As long as I had fun with it, that's all that matters. Anyway, going to its namesake, we play as each member of the Simpson family who are disdained as they're being dragged into another video game like the zany ones before it. Quite a way to break the fourth wall. But dare I say it's the best, and my all-time favorite installment in the never-ending franchise. Each of the clan members has their own unique abilities, and they just go through the roof. Whether it be Homer's helium inflation, churning into a gummy ball, or just performing gigantic rollouts, or burping that can exceed Pumbaa's. Bart makes excellent use of his slingshot and using his Bartman persona. Marge basically recruits people with a microphone, kinda like how Captain Olimar commands Pikmin. Even Maggie gets a chance to shine, as she leaves Marge's backstrap temporarily, and wanders and explores into enclosed spaces. But the biggest kick was of course Lisa's telekinesis, making use of her Buddhism and intellect. There are 16 levels to choose from, and the Simpsons house functions as its own hub world, which seems to be a first here. And they, as much as the series itself, is packed beyond the brim with hysterical references and quirky pokes at pop culture. Hell, you could even see the Simpsons' ancient designs very late in the game during the factory level, or even have a showdown with Patty and Selma who function as a two-headed dragon against the Simpson parents. Or even mess with God. I'd recommend it to every Simpsons fan, past and present, and I consider it as the most superior installment over the games I'd mentioned prior in the console game series, or even over the hidden gems done by Top Loader. Virtual Springfield's a close shave though. Just like with the Family Guy game made on October 2nd, 2006, I'd look at this with immense praise. And even the last hurrah on the oversaturating series, aside from the Simpsons movie, which I wished was the true finale. It's incredible it was released on Mischief Night 2007! If I were to make a license-based games list, it'd definitely be in the top 3, thus taking the top 5. Just like with Kirby Superstar Ultra in the Simpsons game, this license-based platforming adventure arrived back in Christmas of 2008, and it was nearly an instant hit. It seemed ironic since my stepbros at the time were the ones interested heavily into the TV series airing on Cartoon Network when I wasn't. I think this was supposed to be something for my stepbros, but I guess they weren't good at it. So I guess I took the helm. And contrary to most, I actually found the game to be more concise and entertaining than the show itself. Just like with DBZ Budokai, I found the game to be easier to get into as it's interactive and shorter than with sluggish pacing, with 97 episodes not counting its live-action adaptation. We all know the gist. We play as a group of Caddick school kids, Auric, Odd, Yumi, and Alita, led by Jeremy, and forge the Lyoko warriors who save both the digital and real worlds from the viral threat Xana. There are 2 playstyles consisting of 2D setting, where characters roam around and do errands using the bottom screen in conjunction with either the stylus or controls. And then there's the 3D setting within Lyoko, battling many enemies in each of the 5 sectors, with the quartet's unique combat style, keeping an eye on the top screen. Throughout the levels, you make button combinations to unleash powerful moves, and even unlocking them in other upgrades such as a life refill as you collect data bytes. At the end of each level, a tower is deactivated utilizing the stylus and bottom screen to assemble puzzles, which function as a hacking system, even having a minigame challenging you with numerous puzzles on that regard. Aside from the engaging combat missions, the DS was capable on playing cutscenes made straight out of the series. I really love those FMV cutscenes, even its soundtrack. And my main and relatable character has always been Odd, don't you know? Within 15 chapters and following the show's 2 seasons, and a glimpse into the 3rd one, I found it to be just as immersive as Reboot, Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, and the Matrix trilogy. Hell, dare I say it's the best license-based game out of all of them, especially over its stylus-only successor, Fall of Xana, which was from a GameStop purchase, and is just as ridiculous as Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. And William's not present in this, causing excruciating, hateable mayhem. The quest for infinity for the PSP is always something I highly commend. It's not entirely flawless, with the confusing layouts, backtracking so much, tedious trial and errors, or just getting lost in the sauce. But I suggest this game nonetheless, even if it's your introduction to the series in my case. No portable games list, especially including the DS, won't be complete without mentioning Pokémon. Particularly the best way to get into or be introduced to my all-time favorite Generation 2, the Johto saga involving Pokémon Soul Silver. Just as with Pokémon Leaf Green being a god-sending revamp of Generation 1, this was just that for the Generation 2 main games. And because it has the iconic nostalgic Lugia, and a lot of my favorites more available than with Heart Gold, it was just the pinnacle of innovation. We all know the meat and potatoes. We can customize as either a male or female trainer, we collect many Pokemon and conquer the Johto League, we deal with the abusive, sadistic rival Silver, we fill out the regional Pokédex, and best of all, we explore not one, but 2 continents post-new game. That's right, we can explore both Johto and Kanto once we complete the game the first time around, as well as deal with Ash's predecessor, Red. It's not entirely the same as the 3 Game Boy predecessors. There are tons of newer factors. First, the aesthetic and sound has been advanced to suit the DS's sound font. Yet still, there's the option to switch back to the cliptune effects. And the sprites and animations had been enhanced greatly, contrast to the still images in Game Boy Color. Second, the cute feature that allows your topmost Pokemon to follow you around. This hasn't been done since Pokemon Yellow with Pikachu, just to see how your close partner is feeling, and occasionally picking up items. I thought it was an adorable feature. Third, there's more strategy than ever before. Thanks to the miraculous physical and special moves split during Generation 4, and since Dark and Steel types had been pre-established along with abilities and natures, I'd say that Pokemon has reached its peak in the battling department. Before Z moves and gimmicky evolutions fouled up everything. Lastly, with all those factors, it's just the pivotal Pokemon game, and this was released even before we'd be into Generation 5. Hell, there's that special Celebi time travel event as I mentioned in one of my elemental lists. Witnessing history, assisting the Forest Fairy, Suicune, and Lugia, and see the downfall of Team Rocket. Till the Alola games, anyway. Also, similar to Leaf Green, more legendaries and Pokemon are available, making the roster reach up to 397 Pokemon in a single cartridge. Like Pokemon Leaf Green after I broke off from my stepfamily's shackles, I had more creative freedom and I was glad to give this game a more proper chance, instead of playing it very briefly. Unlike Fawful's Minion with Soul Silver being a second favorite, right up there with Platinum, I seem to be the exact opposite. Platinum was nice, but I'm still a proud Gen 2er, if there is such a thing. It always made me fantasize I wore my Pokemon Trainer OC Zelda II for the Ocarina of Time crossovers, and Akari for the reboot multi-universe. The nostalgia in this game can be as far as a heartthrob. And it's no wonder that Gen 2 with Silver and Gold works in unison like heart and soul. This definitely deserves the bronze medal.
And in second place, and this was a tough decision as there were two outstanding performances this year. In second place,
Final Fantasy IV. This is easily saying something considering I'm not into RPGs very often, as well as during the early years of squandering Square Enix. But it hasn't been this way. Yet. I've had this out of luck since Christmas of 2009, and I say Lady Luck considering how scrutinous my stepmom was. And as soon as I saw the message at the back, bid farewell to your blood-stained past, I instantly knew it was the remake from the first Final Fantasy I'd encountered. And apparently this was a first to the Final Fantasy nerd Azurelli too. It was just my all-time favorite Final Fantasy installment, hands down. And it was an astonishing revamp much as Pokemon Leaf Green and Soul Silver. The graphics were enhanced. There was finally audio full-motion cutscenes. No memory limitations. You can customize your large set of skills with augments from other characters they drop. And you can use more abilities whereas the easy SNES version lacked internationally, such as Young's Focus, or Palom and Porum's Twincast, or Rosa's Prey, or Cecil's Darkness, much as Kane's Jump. It even made Edward useful and stand out for once. The music is amazing with the DS sound font. There's also mini-games unlocked to enhance Rydia's companion White's stats. You can replay music and scenes here, and the dungeons are more expansive than ever. Final Fantasy VI never got a phenomenal remake like this. It was about the familiarity, the nostalgia, the characters I care so much for, such as Cecil's redemption and his breakaway from the corrupt Baron Kingdom, and allying with other nations along the way. Hell, this was the first ever RPG I've beaten for the Elder God's sakes. Well, other than Kane's treacherous backstabbing ways that scarred me all my life. The reason why it's in second is mostly because of the steep difficulty spikes. God damn! You can easily get lost and intimidated fairly easy. And it's yet another example that requires the trope, God dang it. Despite the constant hurdles, it was still worth the experience. I have mentioned this game many times, even making several Final Fantasy fanfictions centered around that. I always wish there was this pipe dream on combining this with Pokémon. The characters and voice actors were just ideal within the cluster mug, and no other installment has replicated its unique game style. There's just a surprise and awe everywhere you turn. I would only recommend this to intermediates, though. For over 16 years straight, nothing has ever topped it as my most favorable RPG and Squeenix GOAT. Redemption is powerful and compelling, and this game alone certainly delivers. Alright, we counted down 9 of Nintendo's breakthrough dual-screen games. But before we get to the very best, let's have the honorable and dishonorable mentions play. That's right. My GOAT game for the DS is its very own launch title, the remake of the N64's own breakthrough classic. everything that made Super Mario 64 successful and iconic has been revamped and jam-packed to this small cartridge, and then some. By the time the DS was released, this was what led the charge worldwide. Its charming aesthetic, its openness to all ages, some of its uniqueness, and nostalgia was what made Super Mario DS stand out. While 90% of consumers would rather prefer Partners in Time, which is the worst, and Bowser's Inside Story, which is second best. Sure, I've heard some consumers complain about the control layout and often losing balance while playing, but that never really bothered me. It took me a while to get the hang of it though, and just the fact I'm getting more power stars, 30 more with a total of 180. You can play as Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Yoshi with the 3 literally unlocked through their corresponding doors instead of just the main man solely. There are some stylistic mini-games which I never really cared for much, as well as many more secrets such as exclusive boss fights with King Goomba and Yoshi. Just like with Diddy's Conquest, I'll consider it as an expansion rather than just a successor, and it really made the graphics lesser sketchy. The game was more fun playing as different heroes retrieving stars, with the green team being my main. And bugs have been fixed, whereas the OG was notoriously known for. The butterfly bombs were still present, but not quite as noticeable and frequent. Even consisting of power-ups similar to the OG's magical caps, most notably the Power Flower, which enables Mario to inflate similar to Mario World, Luigi turning invisible like the Vanish Cap, Wario wearing metal like the Metal Cap, which can also enable him to walk on lava, through water, and become impenetrable, and Yoshi breathing fire which melts ice and destroys enemies. I really love the quartet working together, especially with Wario being a sort of anti-hero, and starting with the adorable Yoshi. Heck, I remembered even going through a 24-hour stress test a quack neurologist established, as I had to stay awake through a whole day, as I was being diagnosed with my mental illnesses. This game alone was what made it a tad more tolerable. Drink your heart out, Rabid Luigi, and to all those other haters. Suga Conroy, Pro Jared, and I can't be the only ones appreciating this gem, as well as my second to last hurrah with the Mario series itself, aside from Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. It's just damn near perfection on what a launch title and a well-fleshed out remake can possibly do. I'm the Ekron Writer, and Super Mario 64 DS has demonstrated a GOAT DS game and proof on what the system is truly capable of. And while it was one of the first consoles to go online, it was hardly necessary. Even with this classic, it got me through some of the most stressful moments during the inception of my adulthood. I'd highly recommend this to everyone, novice or veteran, and it always ticks me off to no end how consumers always think the predecessor is better despite the remake's vast improvements. It's clear I'm not always nostalgically blind, and I hope others would see it that way. A true way to start and soon end the DS and the Nintendo era.
Thank you so much for to playing my game.